The MateBook X Pro has always been Huawei's premier laptop, more capable than the fanless MateBook X, far sleeker than the more powerful 16 inches in Huawei's range, and better than most other laptops on the market. It started out as Huawei's MacBook Air competitor but has evolved into a class of its own, and has been almost unmatched in it, pound for pound. Let's begin with unboxing and comparisons with the 2021. The MateBook X Pro 2022 Core i7 comes with a 90W charger, a USB cable, and a USB-C to HDMI dongle. The brick is adaptable, offering different outputs ranging from 10W through 27W, 36W, 75W, and 90W. The Core i5 model ships with a 65W charger. Both are Huawei Supercharge certified but will supply most PD fast charging devices with the correct combination of amps and volts. The MateBook X Pro 2022 is the biggest update to the lineup since its inception in 2017. This year's model retains the 3:2 aspect display, but at 14.2 inch, making it the first in the series to move past the 13.9 inch diagonal, and the panel refreshes faster at 90 Hz. Also, the display is rated brighter at 500 nits. There are two USB-C ports on each side, that's one more port than the outgoing model, and the touchpad has grown, now edging over the rim of the keyboard deck. There's also a webcam in the proper place above the display, not hidden under a secret button on the keyboard. The new laptop boasts a 6-speaker setup, 2 more than its predecessor. There's also a slightly bigger battery with faster charging. The final big jump over the MateBook X 2021 is down to Intel's 12th gen processors. The Core i7-1260P is a generational leap over the Core i7-1165G7 we had in last year's model. Now that we've covered how the MateBook X Pro 2022 improves on its predecessor, let's take a deeper dive into its design and build quality. The Huawei MateBook X Pro 2022 comes in white, ink blue, and this decidedly purple space gray shade we have for review. Sadly, the lovely emerald green isn't on the shelves this year. The laptop weighs 1.38 kilograms and is 310 millimeters wide, 221 millimeters deep, and 15.6 millimeters thick. It has, for the most part, retained the full-sized keyboard of its predecessor. As before, the arrow keys are bunched together. Key travel is good at 1.5 mm and typing is enjoyable on this combination of chiclet style and good size, as it was last year. The keyboard is still flanked by speaker grills and there's a round power button/fingerprint reader in the upper right corner. There's a small Huawei plaque under the keyboard that's new on this year's model. Also new is the bigger touchpad. Huawei calls it the Free Touch touchpad and it's solid state, meaning that any clicks you feel are vibrations from a motor underneath the glass. You can tune the vibration strength as well as the sensitivity of the touchpad. There are intuitive gestures you can do as well, taking a screenshot by knocking on the touchpad twice with your knuckles, adjusting the brightness and volume with swipes on either edge of the touchpad, and closing an app by pressing in the top right corner. Learn these and you'll speed up your workflow immensely. The touchpad spills over to the edge of the frame of the MateBook X Pro 2022, creating a lovely infinity pool effect. It doesn't hinder opening and closing, which can be done with a single finger. The 4 microphones are facing you, underneath the touchpad. The 6-speaker array on the MateBook X Pro 2022 sounds sublime. These are, by far, the best laptop speakers we've had at HQ, outside of the MacBook Pro 14s. And it's closer than you'd think. We measured around 88 dB at arm's length, but the sound quality is what's impressive. Mids are pronounced and crisp, but there's also some solid, quality-feeling rumble from music that we were unprepared for from a laptop. Huawei Sound allows you to optimize the quality through 3 settings: Smart Optimization, which balances detail and bass, the self-explanatory Ultra Bass, and Sound Turbo, which simulates spatial audio. The MateBook X Pro 2022 doesn't compromise on biometric options. You get a fingerprint scanner inside the power button and infrared face scanning above the display. Both are excellent for different reasons. The fingerprint scanner supports caching, so it will wake up the laptop and log you in with a single tap, while the Windows Hello camera is one of the fastest we've used. The camera itself has 720p resolution and supports Huawei's suite of virtual backgrounds. You get to pick between office, cafe, meeting room among other, and you can also apply a beauty filter. There's auto-centering, which leverages the wide field of view to keep you in the center. There are a total of 5 ports on the Huawei MateBook X Pro 2022 on the left, a 3.5mm audio jack and 2 USB-Cs, and 2 more USB-Cs on the right. The 2 USBs on the left are 40 gigabits per second Thunderbolt 4, while those on the right are non-Thunderbolt compliant, but all 4 ports support charging, data transfer, as well as display connectivity. What's convenient is that you can charge the laptop from any of the 4 USB-C ports at the fastest supercharged speed. The display is the centerpiece and the best feature of the MateBook X Pro 2022. It's slightly bigger, 14.2-inch versus 13.9-inch, and higher resolution, 120x2, 1080px, 264 ppi versus 3000x2, 000px, 260 ppi, than its predecessor, and it refreshes faster at 90 Hz, but it runs at 60 Hz by default. The panel is rated at 1.07 billion colors with a 1500:1 contrast. It supports the DCI-P3 and sRGB color gamuts and is VISA Display HDR 400 certified to deliver HDR content at up to 400 nits. It's also a 10-point touchscreen. This year's display is rated at 500 nits, up from 450 nits on the previous model. But while last year's model outdid its rating by 30 nits at 480, the MateBook X Pro 2022 scored a whopping 580 nits at the center. It got down to as low as 500 nits in the corners, which isn't perfect uniformity, but you're unlikely to notice. Suffice it to say, this is one very bright display. The only thing letting this screen down is the higher than average reflectivity. You can see any sort of light source reflected on the glass to the point where it can become a hindrance. It diminishes the bright panel's performance outdoors but is an issue indoors as well. Huawei enables panel settings for its most advanced displays, and you can choose whether the screen is in the more vibrant DCI-P3 or sRGB. Selecting sRGB tones down the display to 8-bit and lowers the contrast and saturation, compared to the 10-bit DCI-P3. DCI-P3 has a 26% wider color gamut in comparison. We love this feature because it makes it a whole lot easier to choose the right setting for your needs. You can choose sRGB for photo editing and DCI-P3 for video editing, or watching a movie.